Hello again, Steve here, and today I thought I would add my few cents to the whole Brexit celebration as well. I am very happy that the British Parliament has, by the looks of it, finally listened to the people and voted to leave the EU, although uh, I stand maybe correct in that I suspected it would not be a clean break, and it's not. So the EU has a chance to harangue the British people through propaganda and what have you, and through their whoever, to drag this out as painfully as possible for another year. And I don't know if anything else can happen in the meantime to sort of hijack the proceedings towards ultimate sovereignty for the British nation, again, the British people, hopefully. Although they're not completely sovereign, they still have a sovereign above them. They are considered to be subjects, but at least they're subject to a smaller organization, and that's always better, right? The closer we can get back to the family, the tribe, the individual, shall we say, the individual especially, the better off we are. So becoming back to the nation state is better than a transnational organization which is unaccountable to the people, largely, as we saw through this whole drag out of 3 years. So here's maybe what I can add to it, just to share with you why I am so happy about this, that at least it's going forward. You see, because I've been part of what I would call a freedom movement, and some of you who've watched my videos over the years will know this. And for me, this story really begins, well, it begins a long while ago, but certainly from something I can remember. It happened quite a while ago, and I don't even know how long ago, probably back about 2011. After I started this YouTube channel, for sure, but it was around that time. I used to listen to a lot of sort of new agey stuff and what have you back then, and there was a guy, Dean Ornish, I believe it was him. He was a sort of an alternative physician, doctor, or whatever in California, and I saw him in an interview, and I heard him mention something about these freedom people in England. So as soon as I heard freedom, because freedom's always been in the back of my mind and in my heart a very high value, right? So I immediately back then did a search, and all of a sudden this whole world opened up to me. I found this free man on the land so-called movement, and surprisingly, most of the people in England were listening to people in so-called Canada. I think of guys like Robert Menard was huge back in the day, back then, in terms of teaching people that you own yourself. Like, as far as other human beings in the world, I mean, if we have religious beliefs in God and so on, that's sort of like an ownership. But I'm talking from man to man in the world. How is it that anybody owns us just without us giving overt permission to be slaves? Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? So if we own ourselves, we're already sovereign. So these free men were basically asserting their freemanship. And I used to watch these videos of how a bunch of guys tried to arrest a judge and all kinds of stuff. It was great. It was back in the heyday of YouTube when you could post pretty much anything. I mean, think about that. Guys storming a courthouse and arresting the judge. And that was on YouTube back then. You can imagine now. Anyway, so this was my start. And I got so much into it that I actually, as some of you will know, I went on a freedom walk. I walked, as far as I know, it's a world record. I haven't had anybody counter it yet, but for the actual walk I did solo with a backpack, 8,000 kilometers in 6 months. And on my back, I had Freedom Walk, a big flag on my back, and I posted regularly on social media. The Facebook page is still up. It's called Freedom Walk, as far as I know. And then I wrote a book. Lessons Learned Through 10 Million Steps, because that's approximately how many steps it takes to walk 8,000 kilometers. And the book is available. You can, not to plug it, whatever, but I do. I mean, once in a while. It's you can go to Inner Genie. Some people say I say Inner G. Inner Genie, like the genie in Aladdin, right? The genie. InnerGenie.com. InnerGenie, all one word, .com. And just click on books and you'll find my books there. I got a number of books written. And yeah, so it's a culmination of all this. And this is one of the reasons why, even though I'm not political, I don't get involved politically, I was enthusiastic about Trump when he came along, because I realized that he was going to these freedom movement, the big ones in the States, and he was getting a pulse of the unrest within people. The unrest within people, that they wanted more freedom. They wanted, not necessarily they wanted more freedom from the government, they wanted freedom from government, right? So that's what we see here. In a way, politicians being politicians, they always want to hang on to power. So what they'll do is they'll pull back. What we're seeing now is a pullback on the power of government. The British government tried everything they could to stay in the EU. They basically ignored the vote to get out of the EU for 3 years, until there was an election and there was an overwhelming mandate for those in the government who were at least willing to say, okay, we'll get out. So that's what they did. Government, people in government, they're extremely cunning. Trump is very cunning. He's always been an opportunist. I believe his heart is in the right place, probably. And who knows about Boris Johnson? I don't know. But the point of the matter is, and I've been saying this for a long, long time, as long as the trajectory is in the direction of freedom, greater freedom, that's wonderful. I've often said it before. Look, if my only two options in life were to be the serf of a really despotic slave master who owned thousands of slaves and abused them or whatever, or a slave master who gave me lots of leeway and not too harsh a treatment and good health care and what have you, or whatever, like a little bit of leeway. Well, while not perfect, because I'm not going to condone the slavery, it's a far cry better than that. And that's what I see with Britain being on its own, at least able to take care of itself collectively, which I still disagree with. It's certainly better than being under the collective of the Fourth Reich. And so, bravo to the British people for sticking to it. Because the politicians were never going to do this. Ever going to do this. They want more and more and more power. Politicians always do. But you would not give up, and finally you got it. But don't stop here. Keep going. Keep going. People from Scotland have a Scotex from the United Kingdom. Northern Ireland have an exit from the United Kingdom. Wales, Cornwall, all these places have an exit from these places, and do your own thing. And then eventually families stand up. Men, be men in your families. Hold your ground. Enforce castle doctrines wherever you live. And let's continue to move freedom. This is not the end. This is the beginning. And this is, I would say, for everybody, whatever England did here, whatever the people of England did here, should be an example for the world for greater freedom and greater responsibility. So bravo to you. So the lesson here, of course, I guess, is look towards freedom. Freedom is the solution. Less government, more individual responsibility. That's right. Freedom comes with a price. It's called responsibility. And the minute we put our hands out and want this and want that, all of a sudden we have the EU or the UN, heaven forbid, lording over us. If you like what you're doing, please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.